there now. Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Good evening. Good evening. Just
Hi,
hold on.
Pauline.
Hi, Pastor Jackie.
Hi, Pauline. How are you?
Very well. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Pastor Jackie?
I can hear you. You're breaking up, but I can hear you. Technology
All
seems to want to
right.
misbehave tonight.
Yeah, but we will be fine. So it's nice to be here
Am
again.
I
Another
hanging?
Friday. Yeah, yes, you are. We just maybe continue checking on your network as we continue. So it's nice to see everyone. Nice to be back on air another Friday. It's always nice coming to you on matters before and after we say I do. And we pray that we're going to have a nice evening. We're discussing, I just need to know that we are on one page. Pastor Jackie is having a bit of technical hitch, but we are going to be there. So yeah, so today we are discussing about the internal and external pressures that come by. You know, this month we've been talking about before we get married, you know, and what we need to do and everything. And of course, before that, as we plan and everything, there are many things that come. You know, at times we go through a lot of stress. At times it's inwards within ourselves, as maybe as ladies and even as gentlemen. And that's why I'm glad to have Pastor Baby with us. Allow me to introduce my guests today. I'll start with men first. You know, we always say ladies first. And because we only have one man today, Pastor Simon gets to start being introduced. So many of us know Pastor Simon Baby. And when I thought about this topic, nobody else came to mind, you know, but Pastor Baby, because of the work that he does with men. You know, many men. In fact, I was just reading his profile, and almost 18,000 men have gone through his program. That is the Man Enough program. That is the Man Enough program, and they've been able to graduate. And so I couldn't get a single man, but I got a man who has had so many single men put together, and that's why he's here to just share with us about, you know, the internal and external pressures, how to go about them and everything. So welcome, Pastor Baby. Do you want to tell them, just to say hello?
Well, thank you. Good to be here, Jackie. Hello. I'm glad to be here and to be part of the team. And I look forward to us having a good time together of conversations. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And so I get to introduce Pastor Mbevi, Pastor Jackie. Sorry about that. She's having a bit of technical hitches, but we'll get there. So Pastor Jackie has, like I said, is a pastor of at Papa's Church, which most of us know about, and she's a coach, a transition coach, and she comes to us because of today's topic. She comes to us as a single lady to share with us about the internal and external pressures. So help me to just welcome you, Jackie, and just say hello to the viewers.
Hi, Pauline. And I'm hoping all my technical issues are totally sorted out. It is great to be here with you tonight and with you, Pastor Simon, and with everybody else that's in.
Wonderful. Yeah, we will flow. I mean, it's a new normal, so we will flow with the technology. We'll get there. So yeah, so Pastor Simon, without taking us, we don't want to take much time because we want to really accomplish quite a lot for our viewers. But I want to believe this evening, it's not just for a single person, the discussion, but it's for, you know, an auntie out there, a parent out there, just to get something to know how am I an external pressure? I mean, how do I not become that external pressure? So this is not about just single people, but I believe it's everybody will have something they're going to carry on today. So I want to dive to you, Pastor Mbevi. And I just, with all the experience, I mean, you're a man, first of all, so you must have had an experience before. But I just want you us to take us through maybe what are the internal pressures that men go through before they marry, and especially when they are at a, I'll put it in quotes, at a marriageable age. Yes.
Mhm. Well, thank you. And I think marriage is a big thing for our culture, especially.
Mm-hmm.
And so marriage is like a rites of passage.
Mm-hmm.
And just to say that a lot of men, as we have interacted together in Man Enough, a lot of men, and one of them is my very close friend, who we were in college together. He's not gotten married yet.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, the first pressure is that men always fear, the greatest fear of men in life is failure. I think
Mm-hmm.
for ladies, it's rejection and not being included. But for men, it's failure, looking like a failure. You just want to feel like I succeeded in being able to get married. And when they haven't gotten there and the clock is ticking, a lot of them
Mm-hmm.
judge themselves very harshly. And they
Mm-hmm.
begin to think, am I a failure? Is it that I can't talk well to ladies? What is
Mm-hmm.
wrong with me? What is wrong with me? So that becomes a very strong internal pressure for a man. The
Mm-hmm.
feeling that I want to succeed, I want to have to settle down. And of course, that's never isolated from the pressure of being part of men. We usually say that a man is made a man among men. And when you're among other men and they are married and you are not married, then you can't help but judge yourself harshly. That
Mm-hmm.
why is it I am not married yet? So that's an internal pressure that you've set yourself the standard. You want to be like other men. You want to feel you've succeeded, and this is not happening. That's one. But number two, I think there's always a desire, very strong desire. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
before I got married, I used to feel like I may not get children for some reason. But when I began to want to get married, and I began to really long to have a boy and a girl, people that
Wow.
proceed out of me. And that
Mm.
became a pressure that I was putting on myself. When am I going to get married? When will I see a little, Simon, someone who looks like me? And just the desire to self perpetuate, the
Mm.
desire to see yourself in your children. That's a big desire in every man, and it pushes you. So it's an internal pressure. But also there's,
Mm.
of course, a desire to settle down. A lot of men feel like I have not settled down until I get a family. Um, because a lot of men feel like there's a lot I cannot do by myself.
Mm.
Um, it's interesting, and maybe Jackie will tell us, but a lot of men feel like it's hard for me to survive without a woman around me to help
Mhm.
me out in a few things, not just us getting children, but
Mhm.
us making a home. For a lot of men, they feel like this is not a home yet until a woman comes and settles here. So
Mm.
that pressure of self to settle down in
Yeah.
that way, in that definition, then becomes a huge pressure for a lot of men. I feel like I'm not settled yet. If
Mm.
I'm investing and buying a home,
Mhm.
so I feel like I'm not complete before the woman comes. And
Mhm.
of course, it's not a true thing because we're always
Mm.
complete in our state. Marriage is just an added blessing. But there's that
Mm.
pressure people put on themselves and feel like I
Mm.
have to settle down. And I think
Yeah.
for me, lastly, is really standards. You put yourself some standards or some dreams, and you
Mm.
tell yourself, by the time I'm 30, I have a wife. By the time
Mhm.
I'm 35, I want to have children so that by the time I'm 40, then I have all the children. And by the time I'm retired and all my kids have finished school
Yes.
and I've been able to pay for them. So the standards that we put for ourselves, and say, this is what I want to do, this is when I want to do it, and this is how I want my life to go. And when it doesn't seem like, the timeline is working, you begin to pressurize yourself and to look around a lot more, and to look within as well and say, am I the problem? So those are some of the pressures. A lot of them, the internal ones, it's hard to say that they are not also influenced by what is external that we will talk about later. But yeah, that's what a lot of men who are not married yet fear, that I'm a failure. I don't belong to the company of men as well as I thought. I have self-standards that I'm not meeting. The question a boy is always asking herself, sometimes without the ability to express it, is, do I have what it takes to be a man? Am I man enough? Do I have it? And it's easy to ask yourself the same when you're waiting to get married.
And those are deep internal pressures, Pastor Simon. Who do men talk to when they're going through those internal problems? I mean, who do they talk to?
Well, unfortunately, men don't talk as much when they go through some, especially when you pass, it could be a joke, maybe until 35, 38, but when you're in your 40s and you're with your friends and they are all married, or most of them are, it's no longer a joke, you take it personally. So what a lot of men do is that they go into what we call the man cave. They just process it by themselves until they get someone who doesn't judge, or they feel like they can be comfortable with, but a lot of them just don't want to talk to other people. Of course, there are some who have their boys who they are very close with them. Boys who are friends, they meet regularly, they are authentically real with each other. And those are the minority and the blessed few. But a lot of men just, keep to themselves and then, divert their attention. I think a lot of men, that's how they deal with their stress. They just focus on something different, whether it's work, whether it's a car, whether it's some work, and they just get so busy with that they don't have time to have discussions on what is not working. So a way of diverting their own personal attention.
Okay, thank you, Pastor Simon. Now over to our bubbly Pastor Jackie. So what are those internal pressures that ladies go through? I mean, before marriage, before they say I do, when they are a marriageable age. Pastor Jackie?
I can hear you. You're breaking up. I'm just waiting to just hopefully catch your whole question. I'm hoping I can get it all. You're asking about the internal
pressures that ladies go through. Yes. Yes, Pastor Jackie.
Not sure if anyone can hear me.
Hello, Pastor Jackie.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Well, let me first start by saying this. Thank you for having me on with you. It's just a joy to be here and have this discussion. Could you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Pastor Jackie.
Oh, great. So let me just keep going. If you can't hear me, let me just see your hands waving away. If you can't hear me, then I'll know to try to figure out what to do next. Okay. But let me say thank you for having me. It's great to be here with you and having this conversation. It's quite one that I've had many opportunities to have because of the fact that I'm single. But also let me say this before I go into the pressures, is that the single state or the single woman is such a complex, state. I don't want to speaking for every woman, and for what they go through. So I'll try for most part to speak authentically from my own experience, and hopefully there'll be enough women who can relate to what I'm saying and what I'm going through and what I've been through over the years. And you'll probably ask how many years, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But what are some of the internal pressures single women go through? There are quite a number. And let me start with the first most obvious one, And that is the cultural context in which we live in, as African women. It is assumed African woman needs to get married at a marriageable age, whatever that age may be. In our parents' time, it was early 20s. In my time, it was mid 20s. Today it could be the early 30s. But that an African woman, to be fully considered a woman and part of society, needs to be married. So that's one of the pressures that are not so heavily spoken of today, but have always been there. That you can sit around the table with other women when you are married, and by extension, you have children. There was a time so long ago where if you were a single woman, within the village context, you'd be considered among the children as opposed to among the adults, because you were not married. So there's that pressure. And to be honest, I don't know whether it's as strong, in our modern society, as in the past, where it was very common that if you weren't married, then you were not considered an adult. So that's one pressure that people feel. Another pressure now moves from culture to biology. Men don't have pressure as we women do, and that's the biological. Excuse me. It's not Corona, down everyone. It is a biological clock, and everybody seems to say, at a particular time and age, women can't give birth, or they can't give safe birth, or their children will have some challenges if they give birth later. And so there's this pressure that you need to have your children. We have finite number of eggs, and they don't get, they get less and less healthy biologically as years go by. And so there's a pressure to have and have them quickly. And when you yourself are healthy, excuse me, pardon me for that. And so we need to figure out, where that pressure is coming from. Is it just yourself, or again from society? The other pressure that I think a lot of women face is the pressure of companionship. And I never find the right person to be my companion for life. And I see it play out in very interesting ways in our modern world. Where you have conversations with younger women who are happy to be a second wife, to be a mistress, to be the girlfriend on the side, just so that they know that they have a man in their life. Because so made it that as a woman, you're only complete if there's a man in your life, particularly one who gives you the comforts of life. And I'm seeing that increasingly happening among our younger girls, in their and they're going out with the older married men who can give them the creature comforts of life. And so if you're going to play the comparison game, how am I doing compared to so and so? Looking at the door, the nyangos across the road, and you don't have what they have, and yet this man can give it to you, then there's a pressure to end your singleness, but not in the way that you may have been brought up, to end it by marriage, but by cohabiting, being a concubine. That word has become so common these days. It's a biblical word, got a resurgence. And so that's another pressure that I find, that people want to say, I'm settled, and by that they'll settle for anyone. And maybe probably the last pressure that I could say that is an internal pressure is the pressure of having your progeny. Who am I living my life for? And if you're not married, you don't have children, then who's passing on your genes? Who are you passing it over to?
Your name,
that it's a man thing. But there are very many women who feel that, will everything end with me because I don't have children, because I've not gotten married? And it's becoming increasingly, an important pressure that women are feeling. And hence you see women who are single are adopting girls, which is what we're allowed to in this country. But adoption is increasing amongst single.
Okay.
Those are the subjects I can think of.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor Jackie. Let me dive again to Pastor Mbevi about, maybe we could talk about the external pressures. I mean, the single man, not married, marriageable age, and again, we put it in quotes all the time, because of course there's really, we don't know the exact marriageable age, but there's what society thinks, and of course everything else. So what are those external pressures that single men of marriageable age go through?
Well, thank you. I think I appreciate what Pastor Jackie has said, especially from a lady's perspective. And maybe just even to add something to what she said, something that I've heard a lot from some women, is to say, I feel like I want to feel like I belong. When I get married, I feel like I belong to someone, that I'm named after someone. And that seems to be a big deal. You know, like I am someone's person, not in terms of property, of course. I'm just talking in terms of belonging and love. And that seems to be a very big deal for women. But aside of that, I just wanted to say, I think the external pressures, number one is culture. That you want to fit into this culture where everyone gets married between 20 and 35 or 40. And so you want to be normal in that sense. You want to feel like this is a norm of the society. I want to be part of it. And of course, people, see themselves as enforcers of culture. So your uncles and brothers and sisters and mom and dad are going to keep asking, when are you coming with someone? One of my friends was telling me whenever he goes home, everybody comes to him and say, you came alone again.
Wow, again.
That just becomes a lot of pressure, because you feel like, don't I have a right to come alone? Especially your closest family, when they keep talking about it, it's a lot more, intimacy, you deeper. If it's a friend out there who doesn't know, you can easily excuse them. But now that is your mom, and it's not like you're not praying or looking or you're trying and you're believing God and you're also longing, but you just feel like people don't understand you. So a lot of those men end up isolating themselves because of that. And of course, ladies these days, for men, when you're a bachelor, you have a bit of, you have a car, you have a house somewhere. Of course, a lot of ladies come to you. And my friend keeps telling me, there's so many ladies who come and say, I'm available, by the way, just in case.
Just in case.
And I know it's not the Pastor Jackie's, it's other women out there who just really have become very aggressive these days. And it's not easy for a man in a culture where men are supposed to be the ones going out, when women coming for you, you begin to wonder, am I really man enough? Is something wrong with me? So the pressure becomes really hard, especially from women and girls who keep asking you, so are you seeing someone like that? Because they also want you to know that they're available. And of course, you don't blame them, because everyone wants to know what's going on, but it becomes a huge pressure. So it's I've met some bachelors who don't go out to social places anymore because of that pressure. People asking you questions, and some not being very kind, trying to look like they care for you, but the words leave you at a worse place than even you were asked. And the other one is work. There's a lot of colleagues and people at work who keep, looking out and saying, some in HR will ask you, this time, are we including any dependents? Yes. Stuff like that. And you could begin to feel out of place at work as well, because you feel excluded. You feel like you don't really fit among the singles, and then you don't fit among the others who are a little elderly, because they're talking about their families. So you sort of feel like the pressure is there even when it's not there. Like now, one of these friends of ours have said, we're in a group together, and a lot of times we're giving stories and really innocently about where we were this weekend, what we did with our families. And you just feel like, so do you have a story to tell? So it becomes pressure for him because he feels like, even me, I want to give a story like that. So there's intended pressure from the surrounding, the environment, but also unintended pressure. There are those who will ask you and pressurize you. There are others who, just by what they say and how they explain their lives, and you just feel like it's pressure from them. So that's part of it. And of course, social media. You want to post pictures on Instagram or other places, and you're always doing it on your own. And sometimes there's going to be some questions. Or if you talk with another lady, then everyone is asking, is this the one? Just the pressure of we no longer have private lives. It's like you want to put out your life out there on Instagram, then people feel like they have a right to question and ask you who is with you, or who are you dating, or who is that on the picture.
They don't respect your privacy.
Yeah. And part of it is because we give them permission to question by posting everything about ourselves. So they feel like they have permission to ask. So I think, in short, I'm saying it's from your closest of friends, other boys, who keep asking you questions, and then it goes to the family, and then extended family, the uncles and the other people, the aunties who just throw hints here and there. And then it goes to the rest of the society, workplace, people you do stuff together, chamas and small groups, church, even church. Unfortunately, we also put that pressure in the way we talk and the way we look at each other and the way we group people. So the pressure is really all over. It's all over.
Yeah, Pastor Bevi, I've had people even say when they have when there's a family gathering, and probably a get together or even a Thanksgiving, and you hear someone say, "I'll not go." They just send money and they'll not go, because when you land there, the questions begin and it becomes, now it's your agenda. Yeah. So I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
So Pastor Jackie.
Yes.
External pressures, and I'm sure you'll share some probably you've also had, and what do the ladies go through?
It's interesting. In this one, I don't think it's too different from what the men go through. They face the same kind of pressures, from family. You've heard people go, as you rightly said, you go up country and the first thing your aunties ask you, so when is your turn? So especially if 3 months ago your niece got married.
Yeah.
And so your nieces are getting married and not yet you. So so there's a family pressure. There's a pressure from society. Trying to hook you up, saying, okay, I've got the right person for you. Let me just hook you up with this person to be perfect.
Wow.
I was trying to set you up, and as I'm trying to saying, I'm actually okay. I don't need to be set up right now, but everyone is telling you, no, you need to this person for you. So it's the same kind of struggles that the men go through. But another one women struggle with a lot is acceptance, because society in many ways is built around the fact of the family unit, which is a great thing. The husband, you're married, but there are many times that opportunities are locked out if you're not married. So certain job opportunities, certain positions, they kind of ask that unspoken question is, do we have a family? And if you say no, then you kind of realize that this place is not very open for me, because they probably of families, married people. I know an area a lot of women struggle is in mixed company. For example, you have a whole group of friends, and I'll talk about, particularly if you're newly single, either you've been widowed or you've divorced, and those who were your friends before, and they come and they tell you, well, now that you're divorced or now that you're widowed, will you be coming after my husband? And all of those people who were your best friends you used to hang out with when you were a couple yourself, all of a sudden those are because now you're single again. And there's this, I think, a really erroneous thought that you can be a threat to other people's marriages just because you're single. And one too many times, and I think it's a little bit distressing that you could lose a friendship, with a couple just because you become a newly single person, and people think that now you're after your husband. And another area that I think women struggle with when they're single is, opportunities that require them to travel. If your job requires you to travel. One would think that being single is good because now you have the option.
You just go.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're traveling in mixed company again and it's work related, then you always have this kind of suspicious look about you. What were you doing when you were out of town, when you were so and so? So it's one of you're looking and saying, you know what, just not everybody's like that. And it's a work situation, and I've got my own ethics and my responsibilities. There's no way just because I'm a single woman having to go out of town on a work with my that one should jump to conclusions just because I'm not. And then the other thing that maybe men don't face as much, but I heard Pastor Simon say, being hit on. I know some of my single women friends who wear rings just to push away male that they don't want. And so it's automatically, oh, she has a ring or she's married, but just put it on there because she's really not looking for attention and just trying to keep unwanted attention away. So it's interesting, just the different things that people go through from external pressure, to be married.
To be married.
I think we need to also acknowledge the opposite side, that the pressure sometimes is, you really want to stay as you are, as single, and that pressure is unhealthy when it's constantly pushed up against you, and you haven't even given anything. I'm open. It's one thing if you're open to people, but if you're not and you're in a space where you just want to be alone, it becomes very uncomfortable. Yeah. I'm not. I know I heard the Pastor Simon say about the Instagram and the photos and taking photos with people having spent a weekend. I don't know whether I've heard too many women say they miss that. I think because women are more social and they hang around as women and they're that's filled with that, and they're happy to take selfies with their sisters, their girlfriends. And so there's not such a huge loneliness issue as it could be with men, because women are just drawn to each other. They're more social. So I can see how an issue with men, but with women, I don't tend to hear so much about that. And I'm not saying that it's not, I just don't hear so much about the loneliness of photographs. Yeah.
Okay. But Pastor Jackie, would you want to share with us maybe an internal and external pressure that, I mean, the one you actually can remember that you went through, an internal or an external one as a person, as Pastor Jackie, as Jackie?
Jackie
Yes.
Jackie the girl.
Yes, it's Jackie. Yeah.
Okay. I'll be honest, they're quite a number, and they have their seasons. They come in waves. I remember in my 30s, the internal pressure was the one of companionship. I was living alone, and one of the hardest things for me was sometimes getting home from work at night. It's late, the whole house is in darkness, you park the car, and you look at this block that is just dark. There's no welcoming light on. There's nobody who has cooked a meal. You're getting home, it's 8 o'clock, you're tired, you're exhausted, and literally you pop toast and tea and you eat off your bed, and then you go to sleep. And I think that was my biggest struggle. I was living alone, so loneliness and the need for companionship was one of the pressures that I felt internally. Kind of faded, as I got into my 40s. It kind of wasn't so strong. But when I got into my mid 40s to my late 50s, the other pressure that then took on was the pressure of the ticking clock, and the biological clock beginning to tick very loudly. You met for the eggs. Should I have done this? Should I, and you have all these things going through your head, and we see, a mighty God, and He can do miracles. He's done miracles, and not just Sarah and Elizabeth in the Bible, but modern day miracles I have friends that I know personally who've had children in their 50s, healthy,
Wow.
perfect babies, yes.
Mm.
So it's
Mm.
not an impossibility, but it's one of those realities that hits you like, okay, it is moving, time is moving, and the reality of a woman in our biology is that you may never become a mother. So those are the
Mm.
two ones that I've personally struggled with. I
Wow.
can't say I struggled with any external pressure. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very strong and forceful woman, and once
Mm.
I my my thoughts clear about a matter, most people tend to stay away and they don't tell.
So no auntie will come and Jackie,
Uh-huh.
Jackie.
Come and ask me those questions,
Mm.
they don't. My parents have been amazing. They've been
Mm.
absolutely awesome. You know, many guys feel a lot of pressure from their parents. You know, when is your time? And you know, my parents are typical African parents. They want what every African parent wants. You know,
Mm.
grandchildren. You know, a
Mm.
son-in-law. You know, and my father, about maybe 5, 6 years ago, had this very random conversation with me. And he came and said, you know what, Jackie, the path that you've chosen in your life is a very good path, you know, and
Wow.
it's a special path. And don't you let anybody ever pressure you about marriage and children. It
Wow.
won't
Wow.
work.
How was that for you? How was that for you?
I mean, I was like, my mouth was hanging open because number one, I didn't see where it was coming from. It just came out of the blue. And number two, it was so affirming to have my father say this to me. And even went on to say, and don't even be concerned about children, because if you want children, go ahead, adopt. There's so many children out
Wow.
there who would look for a mother, you'd make a great mother. I was gobsmacked, you know, but I walked away from that conversation just feeling so blessed
Wow.
that my parents understood my life. I mean, they've got other sons and in-law and
Mm-hmm.
daughters-in-law, because my some of my siblings are married and with children, but they have never put the pressure saying, "Look at your sister, look at your brother, they are married. What about?"
Mm.
They've never said
Wow.
that. If anything, they affirmed my life as a complete life as a single person. So I've never really felt, you know, external pressure, and I do feel for those ones who do, you know, that they have
Amazing.
to
Yeah.
because each time you go into that space, that's the only thing they ask, and you'd rather just
Mm.
by staying away from them. So you
Mm.
know, I'm blessed in that space. I've been blessed. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Amazing. I mean, your dad is high five to him wherever he is. So, Pastor Simon, I mean, how do you, well, what did you tell a man out there? You've talked about the internal pressures, the external pressures. How can they handle these? How will they be able to handle these?
I think it all boils down to security in who you are. I mean, if you let people define you, then it's going to be really hard.
Mm.
But I always encourage them in terms of you know who you are, you're a child of God, you're complete as a man. Marriage doesn't complete you, it only complements you, and that
Mm.
doesn't have to happen. So if it happens, praise God. If it doesn't, then it's okay. So
Mm.
just giving the person the confidence to know who they are in God, what their purpose is, and that their purpose doesn't have to wait for a family. They could keep going. I think just knowing your purpose and calling in life helps a lot dealing with peer pressure and the pressure that comes from outside. It's for the man within to know who he is, where he is going, what he is about, and to be able to let whatever pressure comes from outside just fall
Mm.
off you, so that it doesn't,
Mm.
get into you. It just falls off because some of the people putting pressure, they actually mean well. They mean
Mm.
well. They just don't know. They don't know better. And for you just getting to a point where you say, it's okay, I hear you, but have you considered this, and not having to hide away? Because I tell them, man, don't hide, don't go into a cave,
Mm.
don't get kicked away from where you're supposed to be by the pressure of the people. And that's
Mhm.
cowardice. You've got to stand courageously, do your thing, go to meetings if you need to go. Don't allow the opinions of other people to deny you what you have to do. So I think it takes security in self. It takes understanding that you have this purpose and you will continue. It takes the courage to face off the pressure and respond where you need to, and not just keep quiet and go and lick your wounds in the house. But there's a place for confronting people and just telling them, to be sensitive and helping them understand that there's a place for singlehood in society as well. But I think security in self is the greatest victory against all the pressure that we face all the time.
Wow, I like that. Amazing. And what about, we talked about the men who come to a place where the lady starts, asking them, how can they manage that lady, wanting to ask them out? Do you believe it can be that way? Is it okay for a lady to, I don't know.
I think what I tell them is to have an open mind. Because God may send someone to you in a way that you did not expect. So I tell them, just don't dismiss someone because they talked to you. And I know a few of my friends who have gotten married that way, that the first person to approach them was the lady. And I just tell them that should not be a put off in itself, unless there's an attitude and a character behind it. It just could be that sometimes, there are men who might be shy or might be blind to a person who is right next to them, and they've never seen them, and they're prompting in a respectful way. It's not necessarily, a disqualification of that person. So I tell them, be open. God may bring someone to you in all different ways. There are some who have been told by someone, hey, by the way, have you ever considered that person? Not in a way to say that you can't see for yourself, but just as a prompting of a friend. I know I prompted 3 or 4 who have ended up getting married to that person.
Wow.
So it's not to judge them, just to say, have you ever thought about that person? Have you ever met this person? Maybe, and it's not a pressure, it's just to say, I know where your purpose is and what you're doing in life. I know this other person and what they want to do in life. Maybe you guys can just have tea. If it works, it doesn't work. What's wrong with that? You had tea and you moved on. So I just tell them to be open so that they don't. But also, secondly, I tell them not to run away from the ladies who keep asking questions. Just tell them that I'm not interested or I'm not in that space, and it's okay. You don't have to feel like you have to escape from them all the time.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. That's a very interesting perspective. I like that. So, Pastor Jackie, I know you may not have had, we're so happy for the parents that you have, but I know you have a group of single ladies, and of course, there are many out here who are listening to you. How would you encourage, how would they go about the internal and external pressures? How do they manage the pressures?
Well, you rightly said that I do spend a lot of time with single ladies, particularly those over 35 and who actually do want to get married. I do run a program called The Journey that deals with that. And but before I jump into that, let me just touch on something that Pastor Simon said. He made a statement that I think is powerful. And the statement is that there's a place for singles in society. Now, why that is important is because society propagates because of family units. But it does not mean that if you're a single person, you're not of value to the place you are in society. There's so much that single people give and add to life in general that we cannot, it would be foolish to place of single people in society, And there's some who are given to being single, they're given not to ever get married by choice, not by circumstance. And those people need to be affirmed the choices that they've made, any less than the one who's gotten married. I think both states in the scriptures, both the married state and the single state are affirmed in the scriptures, and we need to see it in society and agree that there are things that single people are able to do that that their married counterparts are not, as easy or as enabled to do. So there is always that. Now, in terms of how to encourage people to push through those internal and external, pressures that they feel, and what I take the ladies the journey through is, you've got to know who you are as a woman. That's fundamental bottom line. You've got to know who you are as a woman, whose image you're made, who God calls you to be, what gifts He's given. You need to know what your values are. You've got to have a very strong identity of yourself as a complete human being. And some of them are hard because there's so much that's happened over your lifetime that may have negated some of these things, if your identity has been shattered from the time you're a child, and you only heard that were negative about you, this whole issue of our self-esteem, our self-worth, the struggles that we have with women. If all you've been fed from the time you were a young girl into your teenage years is that you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you'll never amount to anything, it'll do a big number on you as an adult, whether you're married or single. And so I tell women, if you know who you are, if you understand that you are made in the image of God, perfectly as you are, you'll be able to withstand both internal and external pressures. If you have a value system that puts you on a solid foundation, someone can't come and tell you that you're less of a woman because you're not married or you're not dating, engaged, because your value system says that you're whole, you're complete. Your value system, gives you a standard of living and a way of living. The other thing I tell women as well, if they're dealing with particularly external pressure, is look at your life as a journey. What are the experiences you've gone through? Some people who are single because they've really gone through some really bad relationship experiences.
Yeah.
They've gone through violence, gender-based violence in relationships. They've had just, those kind of situations where you don't want anybody to go through. They've had great loss. Or maybe somebody had a great love in their life and this person died, too soon. And they've got these huge walls, around them. And I say, when you look at your experiences, whether they be negative or positive, grow from them, learn from them. Purpose not to repeat some, purpose to keep growing others. So all these things together, just help a woman understand that as a person, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. And if you understand that, then whatever season of life you're in, then you will be successful. Because there's nothing worse than a single person yearning for marriage and finding someone and getting married, and their life as a married person is worse than what they were as a single. Either because of things that they didn't learn about themselves. And I've seen this a lot with older people who get married. They've lived alone for many years, 10, 15, 20 years. They get married in their mid-40s, late 40s, early 50s. And they struggle to live with another person. And the husband finally is married and he could be 60, could be second marriage because of a death of a spouse or whatever. And this lady has been living alone for 50 years. She's 50 years old. And then all of a sudden, you expect her to act in a particular way that you had seen in your youth. And there's a big struggle of a number of marriages that separated only because they didn't know how to live together as a married couple. So there's nothing more tragic than pining for this thing called marriage. And because you haven't prepared yourself as an individual, you come into it and your life is worse. So I tell women, deal with those pressures first, because unless you deal with them while you're alone, they will just magnify when you get married. And find that the magnification of problems will become an internal issue, because if you have waited that long, people you married, everyone celebrated, you're 45. There's no way you're going to come back and share and say, I made a mistake or I didn't get things right. You're familiar in that marriage. you know, because you didn't get things right. So it doesn't matter what age you are, whether you're 24, 25, fix you. Be content in you as an individual. Made you perfectly. Get that right, and so many other things will sort themselves out. And if you need help, find the help to do it. Talk to your past girlfriends, you know, talk to a coach, but get someone to help you get to that place.
Wow, wow,
Yeah,
amazing. Yes, Pastor Mbevi?
yeah, maybe Pauline, just to add, I love what Pastor Jackie has said, because I think the purpose of life is to become like Christ for us who are Christians. Those who are not, I would say, to become the best version of yourself. But for us, we know even the best version of yourself is not good enough. It's really to become like Christ. And whether it's the intimacy of marriage, or the challenges of singlehood, I think God uses both to refine us. And I like what she said. That's a time to focus on you and allow God to change you. Because one of the things that happens, if you're just looking forward to get married, then you don't work on you. You don't prepare yourself. You don't allow God to make you the best of who you can be, like Him. And even within marriage, there are many who then just begin to focus on the other person and what they could become, and they miss the opportunity. Whether it's singlehood or marriage, it's a tool in the hands of a living God to make us like Him, to refine us, and cause us to be like, you know, the reflection of Christ. And so don't waste time just waiting. Waiting in scriptures is an active word. It's not a passive, laid back position. It's a place of, you know, actively interacting with the Almighty God and with yourself and allowing God to work on you as the groom comes or when he doesn't come. If he doesn't come here, then there's the other in heaven who is coming, Jesus Christ. And so let's all realize that we're in preparation. And this time should be used, you know, not just wasted in waiting. It should be actively used in the kind of waiting that makes us who we're supposed to be.
Wow, I like that. I don't know what I was about to ask you to, from a man's perspective, to speak to that single lady. I don't know what, I'm sure you would have something to add. From a man's perspective, you're talking to a lady who is out there, marriageable age, and with all these pressures around. What would you tell her?
I think one thing I would tell them is don't act desperate. Because when you do, then you get taken advantage of. And unfortunately, I've seen a few of my friends who have gotten there. Men have a way of spotting women who are acting desperate and pursuing them relentlessly. And so don't act desperately, because then you end up making decisions not for what they are worth, but just to solve a problem. And that's how you end up in those wrong relationships Pastor Jackie was talking about, where after a year you realize it wasn't worth it, because you just fell into it because it seemed like an opportunity, and it's almost like marriage by all means. So don't get that desperate, because you could be internally desperate even when you're not acting desperate. If you find yourself feeling desperate or acting desperately, of course, have a group of friends, like Jackie said, that can speak to you as well, because sometimes they can see what you can't see. I think the other thing I say is don't lower your standards. Don't lower your standards or dim your lights because you want to get a certain man. You say this man is good, and even though he's not really a Christian, even though he doesn't have high standards, I really want to get children. I think that's a wrong move, and almost all the time it doesn't turn out well. So don't lower your standards or dim your lights to attract a certain man or for the sake of marriage. You know, just shine fully for who God created you to be. Don't do certain things because you want to accommodate another man. That said, the flip side of it is don't have impossible standards.
So which are impossible standards? So which are those?
And this is only for a few ladies. It's not most of them. But I've met a lady who just said, "This is what I want, and this is what I want. And I want a man who is at this level spiritually, with this and the other, with this rich." It's interesting that Christian women look a lot at the wealth behind the man, and they count certain things, and I say, well. I don't know any man who is alive who fits that standard. I think there's just the Cinderella thought of the Prince Charming that sometimes is completely out of this world. It's not realistic. I think for me, the basic thing that we look for is someone who fears the Lord, is pursuing the right character, and the other things come and go. But the character of a person, and of course their desire to be manly, to take initiative, to lead themselves, to be what they're supposed to be. And I know you've had other sessions where you've talked about the qualities to look for. But don't be such a critique that you dismiss everyone the Lord brings along. You're praying for something, but then you just, every time you see them, and sometimes it could be a complex inside, you just criticize and you dismiss everyone. I think I just say, of course, have the basic standards of what you're looking for and what are non-negotiables, but remember that there's also reality in this world. That doesn't mean, of course, that's why I started with the previous point, don't lower your standards for the sake of another person, but then don't have unrealistic, idealistic movie kind of expectations, which won't happen here. And lastly, I tell them, don't give up hope. I have some friends of mine who have gotten married really late. There's one I really used to talk to. I was working somewhere and I used to meet her and she would say, I've given up. I am 45. This is never going to happen. Where a few years ago, she had a great wedding and she's in a good marriage. She was like 48 when she got married, or close to 50. So I say never give up hope, but then never stay as if that's all you're living for. Move on with your life, with whatever else you're doing, but don't lose hope. God knows what is possible. One of my, lady heroes got married just recently in her 60s in the US, Nancy DeMoss, and she was single for a long time. She served the Lord and celebrated her singlehood. She was open to the fact this may never happen, or it may happen, and eventually it happened pretty late in life. And she said, this is a gift. What I had is a gift. I am ready to open up for another gift. And so don't live for that moment, but be open to God's miracles.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Pastor Jackie, talk to a young man out there, a marriageable, aged man.
Wow,
what did you
pressure.
Pressure, yeah.
Because, oh my word, let me put it this way. Let me not speak for the younger men and women. Let me speak for the old men who are single.
Okay. Yes.
That's the area where at least I understand what's going on a little bit. The younger men, I never call younger people single, really. If you're below 30,
you're still okay. Okay.
Go out, have a coffee date here, and get out, But when you get old, that's really when you become single. But so let me speak to the single older man over 35 years old into his 40s. They are, there's some animals in the wild that are very shy, that rarely come out during the day, only pop out at night once in a while when there's no other animal around. That's my definition of a single man, single Christian man in his 30s to 40s, an extremely shy and invisible creature. Now, let me explain why I'm saying that. Whenever we have a singles meeting that is started in a church, and I'll speak for the church, and they're starting a singles ministry. And they're saying, and they can even put the age group, and they'll say it's for singles over 35, over 40, a specific group. When the doors open for that ministry, there are 99 women and 2 men in the meeting. I mean, really, it's the truth. They just, to the point where you think, is it that there are no single men around? And at one time, a particular church in Nairobi had this ministry, and they ended up being 120 women and 6 men. And of the 6 men, 2 of them snuck off when they realized that the balance of equation was too heavy, and they took off, and 4 men remained for the entire meeting. I had 2 of my friends for the meeting, and they said they cornered one of the men. And they said, no, you have to explain this for us. Are you trying to tell that in Nairobi, there are no single men in this age group? And so we are here. We are here. And so they asked, well, why didn't you come? This meeting was for us. We could have met, mingled. Or is it that you don't want to get married? And they said, no, we want to get married, and we are here. And the reason that he gave for not coming for such meetings or coming out in the open is that too many men feel that the minute they say that they're single in a particular age bracket and they want to get married, then it becomes like a meat market. Every girl between the age of 18 and 85 will be chasing them down. And so they feel they want to keep it private, and so whenever they're in public, they will never say that they're interested. They will wait either for a friend, like Pastor Bevi said, to introduce them to someone, or by God's grace and chance in life, that they will meet someone. Now, my thing to say to the Christian men in that, particularly Christian men in that age group, is don't be too skittish. All difficult and hard out there. Not everybody is looking for a marriage partner. Sometimes just, as I said, companionship, communion, just getting to know each other, being together. And so I would tell the men, number one, don't be so shy. The ladies, come out, be in fellowship. And really, we all have a mouth to say, if I don't think this is going anywhere or will go anywhere, then be free enough to say it. So that's the first thing I say to men, don't be shy. But the second thing I'd also say to men is they have very high standards. Let me try and be as open as I can in this place. Usually, and it's not the standard, but usually when you're getting older as a woman, your body changes quite dramatically. Okay, and I'll be vulnerable here in this open space and share an experience that I had. I'm a plus-sized person, and I wasn't even this size, maybe 10 or so years ago. But somebody introduced me to a Christian gentleman who was 10 years my senior, and we got to talking, and it was a good, back and forth. We would call, we would email, we would talk. He lived in another country while, of course, I was here in Kenya. And then eventually one time he said, I'd like you to send me a picture of yourself. And I said, well, we're just only getting to know each other. Why do you want a picture? Of course, men are very visual. They want to see. He had a picture of his because he sent his on day one. Like, here I am. Look at me. I said, okay, no problem. Yeah. So eventually, sent what I thought was one of my best photos that put me in the best light. And he wrote back and said, I really like you, and I think this could have gone somewhere, but you're not athletic enough for me.
What?
I said, hey, that, at least he was very honest. And it's not the first time that we women hear that. The standards that men are looking for in terms of what a woman should look like are extremely, extremely unrealistic, because we come in sizes, and you'll find those who are model thin, but you'll find those who are a lot more curvaceous. But we feel, and I'm saying this because of the many women that I talk to who are single, that's one of their big struggles, that the men are looking for almost an impossible image in an older woman. Younger, maybe that's a bit easier, but when you're older, there's just so much going on in your life. Hormones are kicking in, things are just different. So that's another thing I'd say. The standards sometimes for the men for older women are a little bit too high. And then the last thing that I say to an older man who's looking, and this again I've heard said in a forum where there were singles having a discussion, and one of them, and he was in his 50s and he was divorced, and he said this, and professional, good job, great money. They had children with his wife, but he was looking to marry and settle down. And this is what he said. He said he's looking for a project. And so I asked, explain yourself. And he says, well, I don't want to marry a woman who's my age mate. I want to marry a young girl who is still able to have children so that we can have children together, so I can have something to do. So the essence for you in getting married is that this person has to be childbearing age. And so that's why you will find that though there are many single men, 40 plus, when they do get married, they tend to marry women 20, 30.
Or younger.
And so the question that you're asking that, okay, that marriage is solely for the purpose of having biological children. Because of course you can decide to adopt if you're much older, your own children. And there's no guarantee that you'll marry a 25-year-old and she'll be able to have a child, or you can have a child. But it was very see that, and many of the men in that room concurred that even though they had their children from either previous marriage, they would still want to have children in their next marriage. So for all those are the kind of things that they wrestle with. And it's none of it is right or wrong, but that's some of the stuff I'll tell an older man who's single looking to marry. Don't put such high standards on the women, a particular image. Number two, maybe you can have a marriage that is very successful that may not have children. Be open to that, and then I can't remember what the first one was, what I said at the beginning.
Well, it's for the
men. Like you said, not to be shy. You told them not to be shy. Yeah.
I will relay that message, Pastor Jackie. I'll relay that message.
Yes, Pastor Baby.
But one of the things we need to do together, I think I've said in a few of the ladies' meetings, Pastor Jackie, is that I've come to realize a lot of men, especially that older age, they relate a lot better side by side than face to face. And so, in fact, this April, I had planned, but now COVID came, I had planned to have an outing where we go for a walk and we invite the men who are not married and then the women, the singles, and then they interact as we do activities. I think it's just one of the things I've discovered a lot about men. When they feel like they're in this place where all the eyes are on them, then they get pretty shy. But when it's an activity out there and we're all doing something or we're going for a trip and they feel like all attention is not on you, you're mingling and the men, I've talked to many men in Man Enough who are in that state said, if you organize for something like that, we will come, just tell us, we will come because it's an activity, we're going out there. So,
thank you. COVID must go. COVID must go. And we must have that thing. Now, we're just about to close, but before the parting shot, before I give each one of you a parting shot, I need to ask you to speak to a parent out there who is, so pressured about their daughter, their son, not yet married, there's those aunties, everybody, those external pressure. But I think for what is most is the family, the nuclear, because you can maybe manage the aunties and the uncles easier. But what would you tell a parents of a marriageable aged gentleman and man? How well can they handle them without putting external pressure? Pastor, maybe you can take.
Maybe I'll go first.
Okay, Jackie.
Okay. It'll sound a little bit harsh, but let me just say it. I would tell parents to relax. Relax. Because, and this is why I would say that, not simply because of my own experience with my own father and my mother, but relax because there's so much pressure in this world coming at your children from so many different areas. Don't add to the pressure. Don't add to the pressure when they're already facing struggles at work or at college. When they know deep down this is exactly what they want, but it's not coming as easy as they thought it would, or they have some mistakes in their past that is preventing them from getting into a relationship easily, and tell parents to relax. If you have done everything right, if you brought up your children as best as you can, if they have had a chance to see examples of what a good marriage is, then just let life force. It doesn't mean to say pray about it, because you can. There's a lot of people in prayer. It doesn't say that you can't be in situations where you can talk about it with your son or with your daughter, because I think it's healthy to have conversations, but to put pressure, on someone because they haven't found the right person to marry, I have seen that so many wrong choices. Because you want to please your parents, you want to get married, the very next person that comes in and shows some interest is the one you settle for. Are they the right person? They could be, but many times they're not. So I would speak to parents and say, just relax a little bit, trust that you brought them up well, and love who they are. And then also just accept the fact that they may never get married. That won't change your relationship with that child. It shouldn't, if they never get married. And it's a tough thing to have to deal with and to face, because you want to see your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. But it's necessary for us to just step back a little bit and look at this situation through the eyes of that child.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you for that, Pastor Mbevi.
Yeah, I think Professor Jackie has really said it all. I'll just say two things in extension to that. Encourage your children. There are many reasons why people may be single. It's not like they don't want to get married. There's cases where it's a biological and medical issue. There could be other reasons. So instead of pressurizing them, be a listening ear. Encourage them and listen to them. Be a person that they can come to when they are discouraged about their state. And you would be an encouragement instead of someone they run away from because you're part of the pressure. Be the parent that you're supposed to be, one who empathizes, listens, prays for, and accepts your children for who they are, not for what they could become if they got married. But accept them and listen to them and be an encouraging parent.
Wow, I like that. It's interesting. Today I was in company of a lady who is much older than me, who has children my age. And one of the things she told me, because she started having pressure about her daughter and her son not getting married, and she just told me when we were talking today, she said God reminded her, thank God they're alive. I mean, that was you want them to get married, you want them to get children, that it's not happening yet, but then God told her, thank God they are married. So I like that. So we are getting to the parting shot. We are at the tail end of this show. And I cannot finish this show without asking Pastor Jackie, are you still open to marriage?
Can I drink some water first?
Yes, please sip some water first, because that is, I cannot end this without asking that,
Yeah. It's a fair question. It's a fair question. So let me say it in two parts. The first part is that something shifted as I went into my late 40s, into 50, because I turned 50 last year. So I'm turning 51 in about 2 weeks' time.
Wow.
And the pressure eased off. The desire, the need, it all eased off. And I came to the place where I said, let your will be done, Lord. So let me not keep trying to figure out this thing that has got me to 50. Because just to say, I thought I'd be married by 26, 27, 28. I knew I'd be married definitely before 30. I knew I'd have all my kids by 35, and I'd be a grandmother by the time I'm hitting 50 or, 55. So it didn't go according to plan. But the I hit my 50s and it just kind of like eased off and a calmness settled over me. So do I still want to get married? Am I still open to getting married? The answer is a resounding yes.
Wow.
But I'm
Wow.
in the place where I'm saying behind every bush, behind every tree, there could be. Remember I said there were shy creatures. So we're looking for that, that has gone.
Wonderful, wonderful.
The Lord were to bring someone into my life, was to meet somebody. Oh, I'm open to marriage, but with a lot. Let me make it very clear, with a lot of parameters around it. Because think like
you know you're on national television. All
but
right.
I mean, yeah. Let me just share one of the parameters. You know, again,
Yeah.
at this age, it is still possible to have children. But what I've realized is that there's a reason why people have children in their 20s and 30s. They have energy. I do have children. I'll probably have 3 or 4 nannies to look after the child until they, and then I'll take over. You know, it's just like so. It's a lot of things going through my mind, but no, I'm open.
Wow, thank you. And I know, thank you for being very authentic. I must say, I'm sincerely thankful for your openness and for, I mean, someone hearing that you're open to marriage still is very encouraged. So thank you for being that authentic. Thank you, Pastor Mbevi, for speaking as a man and on behalf of the many men that have gone through your hands. Of course, you've taken homework with you, which Pastor Jackie has given you. So please, you better do that homework. And I really honestly enjoyed the show. And I know so many people out there have had something to take home. Your parting shot, Pastor Mbevi.
Well, let me say thank you for having me and thank you for the good work you're doing. God bless you and God bless this show as you continue to grow it. I think I would just say to all the singles out there, just realize that singleness is a gift as much as marriage is a gift. Use it to the glory of God and look up to the Lord for whatever else comes. And as a society, let's not look down on singlehood. Let's appreciate it for the gift that it is. Apostle Paul, that we all celebrate, was single himself. And so let's not think people miss something when they don't get married. Let's celebrate it together and let's be people who respect one another and become a community that doesn't put unnecessary pressure on each other. God bless you and thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor Mbevi. Pastor Jackie, parting shot.
My parting shot is this: you only have one life, live it, enjoy it. Don't get so caught up on what you don't have. Experience fully what you do have. So in your single years, there's so much that's available for you to enjoy. You know, if you want to travel, travel. Of course, now with COVID, it's a bit of a mess. But if traveling is your thing, do it. You know, if you want to study some more, do it. You know, if you want to volunteer, you know, in a place, do it. If you want to learn a new skill, do it. Don't put your life on hold, waiting for something that may never happen. Because there's so much that we set aside because I'm not married. I don't have someone to, you know, go to Zanzibar on your own and enjoy the wonderful beaches in Zanzibar. You know, climb the Himalayas again, but live your life because you only have one life to live. And by the time the Lord brings someone into your life, you will be a richer, more exciting, more vibrant, more interesting person for them because you have lived your ultimate life now.
Wow, wow, wow. Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything. And I wish you well in as you pastor, both of you as you pastor, as you help people transition, as you help the men out there. It was really nice having you. And for all of you who are following us, I wish you a beautiful weekend. And let's meet again here on Friday at 7:30. We're starting a new series on After I Say I Do. So from me here is
Thank you so
bye-bye.
much,
So bye.
Pauline, for having me on.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.